Students, myself Dr. Ruhi, I welcome you all for my today's class. So today we will be dealing on a topic examination of a gynecological patient. So we have already covered the history taking. We have covered the history taking. As you know, the clinical examination, it starts from the in-depth history taking and then the examination part. So in this we have covered the history taking part. Now coming to the examination part. So before going for an examination, a complete history taking is very essential, starting from the preliminaries like name, age, marital status, parity, social status, chief complaints of a patient. So history should be taken in depth about the each and every point. So we have covered how to take the history, because the complaints, whenever the patient hearing should be made given by the complaints made by the patient in her own words. So whenever the patient says or her complaint, so the patient's complaint should be written as a chief complaints in patient's words. Then you have to ask the questions which should be specific and the open ended, and it should be tackled tactfully and judicially. And you have to take a history in detail one by one about the symptoms which the patient presents. The patient presents with a multiple symptoms, so you have to ask in detail about their chronological appearance, how the symptom started, which symptom is started first. All those things you have to ask in detail. Then the gynecological history includes these following points: menstrual history, obstetric history, past medical history, past surgical history, family history, and personal history. So we have covered how to take menstrual history. Like, menstrual history should start from the age of onset of the first period, or the menarche, age of onset of menarche. Then the cycle is regular or not, regularity of cycle, duration of period, length of the cycle, amount of bleeding, how it is. So excessive bleeding, how to assess amount of bleeding is you have to ask the number of pads a patient use per day. And the LMP is nothing but the first day of last menstrual period, so that is called as LMP. Last, when she had her last menstrual period, so the first day, that is the starting of her last menstrual period, is called as LMP. So LMP, all this to be represented. Then you have covered about the obstetric history. Obstetric history is nothing but you have to ask obstetric history to a patient who has undergone abortion or who already has children. So the patient had previous pregnancies, so detail of these all should be asked in detail. uh, and there is a table form to ask the obstetric history, these like number, date, years and events, pregnancy details, labor details, method of delivery, purpurium, and about the baby, basic things about the baby like the baby weight, baby sex, and contraception used or not. All this comes under the obstetric history. And we have also covered how to sum up this obstetric history, the number of living children, boys and girls, health status of the babies, and the immunization, last childbirth, etc., should be asked in detail. And past medical history, the relevant medical disorder like systemic, metabolic or endocrinal disorders, if the woman had suffered, all this should be inquired. Okay. Then past surgical history, that it includes the general history, general surgical history, obstetric surgical history, or gynecological surgery history. The nature of operation, anesthetic procedures, bleeding, clotting, complication, etc., should be asked in detail. So previous surgery history is also important. Like in case of previous cesarean section, we can opt for the cesarean section. So likewise the previous surgery history is very important. Then past surgery history, all these things comes under, like starting from the general or obstetric surgery history. Then family history of importance, because some diseases are seen in the family, so some diseases are familiar, which have the positive family history, like the malignancies of the breast, colon, ovary or endometrium. So in these cases you will usually find the positive family history, or history of any diseases which spreads from the person to person, like tuberculosis, etc. Nowadays corona is going on, so you can ask whether a patient has suffered from such infectious disease or not. Okay. Then the personal history, it includes occupation, marital status, sexual history, contraceptive practice, history of taking drugs or allergy to certain drugs. Then coming to the examination part. So after taking a thorough history of a patient, you have to go for the examination of a patient. So the examination of a patient includes first the general and systemic examination. So this is important. If you are a gynecologist, don't go for the gynec examination directly. You should be aware of the general problems also. Okay. So first you should start from a general and systemic examination. Then the gynecological examination. In that gynecological examination, 3 points comes. One is the breast examination, second is the abdominal examination, and third is the pelvic examination. So first about the general and systemic examination. In the general and systemic examination, it should be thorough and meticulous. So you have to start from the seeing the patient, the build of the patient, whether she is too obese or too thin, and it may be result of endocrinopathy. Sometimes if your menstrual abnormalities, like if she is suffering from PCOS, she may be somewhat obese, or if she is suffering from hypothyroidism, again the obesity will be there, like endocrinal problem. Hyperthyroidism, she will be too lean. So like this, it gives a clue about not only the nourishment of a patient but also the related endocrinopathy she is suffering, and you have to think about the relationship between the endocrinopathies and the menstrual irregularities. If our cycles are irregular, then you can correlate with the different endocrinopathies. Then nutrition, whether average or poor, you have to ask. You have to see the stage here, like in development of the secondary sexual characteristics in a girl, pallor or jaundice present or not, edema of the legs, teeth, gums and tonsils should be seen for any septic foci. Then the neck, palpation of the thyroid gland and the lymph nodes, especially the left supraclavicular glands. Cardiovascular and respiratory system, you have to examine the cardiovascular, CVS and RS system, completely respiratory system. So any abnormality may modify the surgical procedure. If she is suffering from any heart issues, then you have to think about how to take that patient for surgery. If she is having any respiratory issues, then you have to think about the anesthesia and the nature of surgery. So this cardiovascular history is also important. So you have to go for proper auscultation of the chest. Then if it deems necessary, pulse and blood pressure. A pulse and blood pressure measurement is a routine, it should be done. Okay. Then next, coming to the gynecological examination. So in the gynecological examination, first it starts from the breast examination. Breast examination, yes. So breast examination, this should be a routine, especially in women about the age of 30 years. So if a woman have come to your clinic who is about the age of 30 years, so you have your examination should start always with the examination of a breast, because you have to in this age the possibility of carcinoma will be there with the increasing age. So you have to detect any breast pathologies present or not, the important being the carcinoma. In India, the breast cancer is the second most commonest malignancy in female, next to the carcinoma cervix. So in India, the CA cervix, that is a cancer of cervix, is the first malignancy found in the females, and next is the breast carcinoma. That's why in India, if you are practicing, so you always should start your examination with the breast examination. If you are going for a gynecological examination in a 30 plus age woman, then you have to start with the breast examination. Next, the how to perform the breast examination. So there are different methods of breast examination. One is the self examination. A patient can stand in front of the mirror and she can do her breast examination, self breast examination. She can palpate her breast with her own hands, like that. Though you can educate the patient to go for the self breast examination before consulting a doctor. If she found any pathology, any mass, any tenderness, then she can come to a gynecologist for the further clinical examination. So coming to the clinical breast examination, the physician usually begins the gynecological examination with the breast examination, as I have already mentioned. So the patient position is, it should be supine. Patient, you have to make patient to lie down supinely. Then breast and nipples are to be inspected for what are the things you have to observe. One is a swelling, second is a dimpling, puckering and change in the skin texture. So examination of the breast, first in the supine way. Also in the second method of examination is inspection with the arms at her sides. Then you can ask patient to stand, then you have to inspect with the arms at her sides. In this diagram you can see the arms of the patient are at her side. So in this way you can examine or inspect the breast. The second is inspection with the arms raised above the head. You can ask patient to raise her hands or raise her arms above the head. In this way you can find the fixicity, sometime puckering of the skin of the breast, etc. In this way, in this position, you have to examine the patient. Next is third point is inspection with the hands and the waist with the contracted pectoral muscle. So you can ask patient to keep her hand at her waist and so that and to contract the pectoralis major muscle. So what happens in this way, you can better elicit the fixicity of the cancer or a mass to the skin. So if it is cancerous mass, its fixicity will be there, otherwise breast will be hanging. Fourth method is palpation of the axillary nodes. So after the inspection of in these three ways, third is the palpation. Next is the palpation method. So you have to palpate the lymph nodes. So you have to start from palpating the axillary lymph node. See, this is a method of palpation of the axillary lymph node of the patient. In this way, one hand you have to keep over the shoulder of a patient and another inside in the axilla. Then in this way you have to palpate the axillary lymph nodes. And fifth point is palpation of the supraclavicular lymph nodes. See, this is a method of palpation of a supraclavicular lymph nodes of the patient. So in this way you can palpate the supraclavicular, that means above the clavicle whatever the lymph nodes are there, that nodes are to be palpated. And third and next method is the palpation of the, now you have to palpate the each and every quadrant of the breast. So again you have to make the patient lie down and you can keep a pillow below or the chest of a patient. Then you can palpate this. Palpation of the outer half of the breast, a pillow is placed under the patient's shoulder. So you can place a pillow under the patient's shoulder and in this way you have to palpate each and every quadrant. There are 4 quadrants in the breast: upper outer, upper inner, lower outer and lower inner. So you have to palpate each and every quadrant of the breast with the hands, especially with the palm of the hand, not with the fingers of the hand. So like in this way you have to palpate the each and every quadrant, especially the outer half of the breast which is more prone for the development of malignancy. So you have to palpate in the systemic way. So next point, your findings. So what you have to look for? You have to look for the lump, you have to look for the skin changes, look for the pulled in nipples, look for the redness and rashes, dimpling and rippling. So see, these are the different quadrants of the breast different quadrants. So in the outer upper quadrant there are 50% of chances of the development of the breast disorders and very less in the inner lower quadrant. So this is a method of palpation. You have to palpate in detail about each and every quadrant of the breast and you have to look for all these different symptoms and the signs. So this is all about the method of palpation of the breast. Next, after the breast examination, you have to go for the abdominal examination. So abdominal examination, the basic things or the before starting examination, some preliminaries are there. You have to ask patient to empty the bladder. That means the bladder should be empty. The only exception to the procedure is the presence of history suggestive of stress incontinence. If the history is suggestive of chronic retention of urine, catheterization should be done taking aseptic precautions using sterile simple rubber catheter. Then the patient is to lie flat on the table with the thighs slightly flexed and abducted to make the abdominal muscles relax. The physician usually prefer to stand on the right side. So as a physician you have to stand on the right side at the performing abdominal examination. Then presence of a chaperone or female for the support of the patient and the physician. So you can keep a assistant or you can allow patient's attender to accompany her. So this is a method position of a patient at the time of examination. See, her legs are flexed so that the abdominal wall get relaxed. So in this way this is a better position for the examination of the abdomen. Next is the actual steps of the abdominal examination. Starts from the inspection, palpation, percussion and the auscultation. As you know, the 9 quadrants of abdomen. So you have to write in which quadrant the pathology is present. So it starts from the right hypochondrium, epigastric left hypochondrium, right lumbar, umbilical left lumbar, right iliac, hypogastric and the left iliac quadrants. And another one, in other books they have divided the abdominal quadrants into 4 only: right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant and the left lower quadrant. So these are the different abdominal quadrants. Next, as I have mentioned, the actual steps starts from the inspection, palpation, percussion, and the auscultation. One by one we'll see. First, starting from the inspection. Yes, your examination should always start from the inspection. Your observation should always be good. So before touching the patient, you should observe it in detail, because with observation we can come through different points. Then we can go for the further methods like palpation, auscultation, etc. So inspection, what and all the things you have to inspect: the skin condition of the abdomen you have to inspect, that is the presence of old scar. If she has undergone any previous surgery, then you will find the scars of those surgeries. Styria, in the pregnant patient you will find the styria gravidarum, you can go for you can see this. Then prominent veins or eversion of the umbilicus is to be noted. Then next is, by asking the patient to strain, one can elicit either the incisional hernia or divarication of the rectus abdominal muscle. So if you are doubting these things, then you can ask patient to strain. In the incisional hernia it becomes more prominent on the straining. So likewise you can differentiate it with the divarication of the rectus abdominal muscles. Then in the intestinal obstruction cases, usually this is a general condition, not the gynecological obstetric condition. But if she is suffering from intestinal obstruction, then her abdomen is usually distended and the respiration is of the thoracic type. Then in pelvic peritonitis, that is nothing but the inflammation of the peritoneum present in the pelvic region, the lower abdomen is only distended with a diminished inspiratory movement. So you will find the lower abdomen is distended, not the upper part. And here you will find the inspiratory movements are reduced compared to the expiratory movements. In ascites, one can find the fullness only in the phalanx with the center remaining flat. If she is having the ascites, then you will find the center part is flat, whereas the side part, that is the phalanx part, is filled. So this is the fullness, one typical type of distension found in the ascites cases. Then if having a huge pelvic tumor, either it is fibroid or any large major cyst or any cancer malignant tumor, then in this case, which you will find it is more prominent in the hypogastrium, situated either centrally or to one side. So it gives a clue that there is a presence of a huge pelvic tumor, maybe benign or malignant one. Then female escutcheon. Escutcheon is nothing but a pattern of the female pelvic hairs. So female escutcheon over the mons pubis is noted. So it should be in an inverted pyramid shape. So you can see the female escutcheon over the mons pubis. So these all are the things you have to inspect in detail. Next, about the palpation. The palpation should be done with the flat of the hand, gently rather than the tip. So you don't have to press with the tips. You have to press, or you have to palpate with the flat of the hands. So if you palpate gently with the flat of the hands, you will come to know the detail of the mass. So if the rigidity of the abdominal muscles is encountered, it may be due to high tension or due to the muscle guard. Sometimes you will find the muscles are very rigid because of the muscle guarding, which is a process of the abdomen to save it from the parts. If there is any tenderness or infection inside, the muscle guard will be there. Muscle guarding appears, so the muscles become very stiff or rigid. It will not allow further palpation, so that rigidity you will see. If a mass is present in the lower abdomen, its location, size above the symphysis pubis, consistency, feel, surface, mobility, that is from side to side and from above to downward. You have to move that mass from side to side and above downward. So you have to see whether it is mobile from side to side or not, or it is mobile from above to downwards or not. And margins are to be noted, whether margins are regular or irregular margins, that you have to see. Consistency is its feel, whether it is solid or soft in nature, like that. Whether the lower border of the mass can be reached or not should be elicited. In general, the lower border cannot be reached in the pelvic tumors, but in the ovarian tumor with a large pedicle, one can go below the lower pole. So you will find you can reach below only in cases of ovarian tumor having a large pedicle. So this is all about the palpation. See in the diagram, you can see the method of the palpation. Gently with the palm of the hand, you have to palpate the organs and each quadrant of the abdomen. See, this is a method of palpation. It's a light palpation method. If the tumor is cystic and huge, one can exhibit a fluid thrill. Fluid thrill felt with the flat hand placed on one side of the tumor when the cyst is tapped on the other side of the tumor with the other hand. So this is called as fluid thrill. What you have to do is you have to keep one hand, and with the another hand you have to give a tap. So if the fluid is present, so you will find, if you give the tap, you will find the sensation or pulsation on the other hand. That means the fluid is present. So this is called as a fluid thrill. It is fine. Fluid thrill is seen in cases of ascites, also in cases of a cystic tumors which are larger in size. So when a mass is felt or not, routine palpation of the viscera for any organomegaly is to be done. That is the for palpation of the liver, spleen, cecum, appendix, pelvic colon, gallbladder and kidneys. These are the general palpation. You can also go simultaneously with the general palpation of the organs just to rule out any organomegaly is present or not. So this is a fluid wave palpation method, assessment of the abdomen with an assistant placing the ulnar surface of their hand firmly in the middle of the patient. You have to tap from one side to feel the wave on the other side present with the ascites. So this is a fluid wave method. See, next coming to the percussion method. Palpation we have covered. Percussion, see, this with the hand, this is a method of percussion. How to do percussion? So you have to do percussion with both of your hands. One hand will become plexor, that is the middle finger of the one hand, especially the right hand. You have to tap over the middle finger of the left hand placed on the part or placed on the abdomen. That is a pleximeter. So plexor and the pleximeter, this is the technique of the performing percussion. So with this one hand you have to tap on the other finger, then you will find the different percussing some sounds. So dull sounds, so you will find two types of sounds, one dull sounds, another is a resonant sounds. So with the percussion you will find dull sounds, that means the solid or fluid filled structures are present. If you find the resonant sound, structure containing the airs or gas usually give resonant sounds. Percussion, a pelvic tumor is usually dull on percussion with resonant on the phalanx. So if it is a pelvic tumor, you will find its dullness. So you have to continue percussing on the sides also, phalanx also. So yeah, so it becomes resonant on the phalanx. That means it is a pelvic tumor. However, if these are intestinal adhesions, if there are intestinal adhesions and the tumor is retroperitoneal, that is below the peritoneum, backside of the peritoneum, it will be resonant. In presence of ascites, the phalanx will be dull on percussion, and the shifting dullness, if elicited, confirms the diagnosis of the free fluid in the peritoneal cavity. It is, however, mandatory to elicit the presence of free fluid in the peritoneal cavity in every case of the pelvic tumor. So this is a shifting dullness. For small amount of fluid, patient lies flat. Percussion started from the midline and continue to either phalanx until the node becomes dull. Finger is kept at that point. Patient asked to turn opposite side. This is a method. So you can ask patient to turn opposite side, same by percussing only. Wait for a minute, area again to be percussed. Then surest side of the fluid filled is minimum 500 of ml of fluid is needed. So if 500 of ml of fluid is needed, then only you will find the shifting dullness. This next is the auscultation. Auscultation, this is the last method of the abdominal examination. Assessment of the abdomen by auscultation. Use the diaphragm of the stethoscope lightly placed on the quadrant. So each and every quadrant you have to, right upper quadrant first, then the right lower quadrant, left upper quadrant and the left lower quadrant. Likewise you have to auscultate the each and every quadrants of the abdomen. You will find usually the bowel sounds, 5 to 30 per minute you will find the bowel sounds. Then high pitch always heard IRLQ, that is the ileocecal area. Borbogony, stomach growling, or sometimes normal or hyperactive gurgling sounds are seen if having any digestive disturbances. Auscultation, ordinary auscultation reveals only the intestinal sounds. Hypoactive bowel sounds are found in cases of paralytic ileus, whereas hyperactive Hypoactive is found in paralytic ileus. Hyperactive bowel sounds are seen in cases of intestinal obstruction. So if it is too much hyperactive sounds in intestinal obstruction. And one more important in cases of the obstetric is the uterine shuffle. Uterine shuffle may be confused with the fetal heart sounds most of the time. Uterine shuffle may be heard over a pregnant uterus or the vascular fibroid, which is synchronous with the patient's pulse. So if you get a doubt whether it is a uterine shuffle or fetal heart sounds, then you have to confirm it by seeing the patient's pulse. If the patient pulse and the rate of the auscultation is same, then you have to think that it is not a fetal heart sound, it is a uterine shuffle, because uterine shuffle corresponds to the patient's pulse rate. So patient pulse and uterine shuffle rate is same, that means it is not a fetal heart sound. If fetal heart sounds is usually more, no, it is 120 and 130 per minute, so that is a fetal heart sounds. If the tumor is of pregnant uterine origin, then the fetal heart sounds can be heard beyond 24 weeks. So if you find that the fetal heart sounds, usually you will find the fetal heart sounds with the ordinary stethoscope after the 24 weeks of pregnancy. So this completes the abdominal examination. In the next class, we will be dealing with the pelvic examination. Thank you.